Comment in chat if you guessed right. I know a few people managed to mention the sagas and then brought up Brunhilde and Sigurd. That was definitely the reference I was making. So if anyone thought about it, comment in chat. I mean, did you expect us to do Eric Bloodaxe? I'm pretty sure I asked for this one to be inserted into the schedule.
I'm going to have to just remember not to bring this up later, but there's a common joke in the Fate community that Eric Bloodaxe is forgotten about by everybody, including the devs.
Aww. Yep. Well, I didn't forget about Eric.
I mean, look how many tabs we have.
Oh! I didn't forget about Bloodaxe. I specifically asked for Bloodaxe this month. Like, I wanted another Norse sort of servant. Cause yeah. Oh, the most forgotten servant. The most boring servant. Oh. Well, I'm gonna do... Well, Acto DK, I'm gonna do my best to prove you wrong.
Well, why don't you go ahead and get started here?
So, we actually have a lot about Eric Bloodaxe when you consider history and the sagas. Which means this is not necessarily going to be short on my end. Eric Bloodaxe was born Eric Haraldsson, right? The Norse tradition, name yourself after your father and then son or daughter, was a 10th century king who ruled as in Northumbria and in Norway for several different reigns across different times. As you can see up there, it says he succeeded Harald I from 931 to 933 as King of Norway, but he served 2 terms as King of Northumbria, once from 947 to 948, and once from 952 to 954, meaning he was not very successful. He also died at the end of that third one, if you don't notice. He died in 954, which means his successor probably murdered him. Yep.
Died on, like, battlefield or died on the throne?
Battle of Steinmoor.
Ah.
Yeah. However, he was married to Gunhild, the Mother of Kings.
Mother of Kings.
The Mother of Kings. So, we've got a pretty reconstructed narrative of his life from a combination of kind of historical data, of like contemporary and near contemporary sources of his time as ruler of Northumbria, which, as I mentioned earlier in stream, is an area in the British Isles that's basically the north of England and the south of Scotland as a region called Northumbria. And then his supposedly his time as Eric of Norway, right, like King of Norway, is entirely based in the sagas, right? That is not necessarily in historical record, but if you kind of combine it all, you come up with this kind of story of the life of Eric Bloodaxe. Theoretically, he may have been accidentally identified with theoretically these two sources are the same people, right? Like, we think that they've been identified together for the last 800 years or so, but some people dispute this and say that this is actually the case of 2 different Erics who just existed at a very similar time, right? Interestingly enough, he's relatively obscure in history, right, outside of kind of his 2 reigns, but there is a lot of depictions of him in the King's sagas, right, because he's part of the saga of his father, Harald Fairhair, and his young brother, Hakon the Good, which includes the Synoptics Historia Norwegia and Theodoricus's Monarchs Historia de Antiquitate Regum Norwegiensum. Written in around 1100. He's also in another one written in around 1190, and then the later Icelandic saga of Orkneyinga saga, and then like a bunch of other. He's also described in the Heimskringla of Snorri Sturluson, the Eagles saga, and the Olaf saga. So I mean, he is all over the sagas. He might be relatively like not the most written about person in actual historical records, but he is all fucking over, you know, kind of sagas and kind of the mythological sort of history of this part of the world, right? Like, he is not a minor character per se. So his last name, as written here, Bloodaxe, is actually an epithet. Obviously, it's not his birth last name, right? However, we don't actually have a for sure reason why he's called Blood Axe. According to the sagas, it's supposed to be a reference to him killing his half-brothers in order to rule over Norway. Theodoricus gave him the nickname, like, Killer of Brothers, Brotherbane. But contemporary stuff in terms of the actual history hasn't really attached it to him. So this is the epithet Blood Axe is almost entirely based in the sagas, right? Not in kind of historical record of the King of Northumbria. This is a reference to the sagas where he's described as the King of Norway, right? So he's listed as Harald's son, right? And his predecessor was Harald the First. This is the part that's attributed in most of the sagas, right? This is why he's included in the saga of his father and then in the saga of his brother. There are several Haralds from this period. Somebody once argued that it might have been Harald Bluetooth, the King of Denmark, that they were actually referring to, which is actually where we get the little Bluetooth symbol from, which is actually fucking hilarious. But there's very few references to kind of that supposition, right? There's not a whole lot of evidence for it. Most people assume that the herald being referred to is Harald the First, the King of Norway, right? So that seems to be the most easily ascribable option in terms of the sagas, because I don't know if y'all saw OSP's video, but I definitely mentioned it when we were doing this Sigurd and Brunhild video, and trying to deal with, like, historical record and then the sagas and then mythology in that area of the world is a little bit like herding a bunch of cats into a bag with no help when they know you want to give them a bath. It can be a struggle, and it doesn't help that there's a lot of similar names being repeated again and again and again. So he's got a mother and half brothers, right? That's the kind of the whole point of the Blood Axe in the sagas. It's said that he kills some of his half brothers in order to ascend the throne, right? His mother's never named in some of the sagas, but in other ones it's said that she was named Ragnhildr, the daughter of a king of South Jutland. So, be as you will. It's said that his father may have married, like, a Danish princess as well. But this is literally different in every single version of the sagas. Like, this is horribly confusing. I actually pulled out my copy of the sagas to do a bunch of research. Oh, it's over there for this, and it was a little bit like, turn to page 394, page 390, turn to page 17, go to page 17, turn to page 278, go to page 2, it was very confusing to try to kind of track down a single person across so many different sagas when the accounts don't agree. Which, I mean, maybe that's why fate is just like, nah, I don't know. But there are, most of the sagas do agree that his successor would be his younger half-brother, Hakon the Good, right? According to the early sagas, he spent a lot of his childhood with, Thorir, son of Hrold, and apparently, in his adolescence, by age 12, he was already of prodigious valor and strength, and embarked on a wonderful career of international piracy. He spent 4 years attacking the Baltic coasts and those of, like, Denmark, Germany, Frisia, another 4 years attacking Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and France, and then some time attacking Lapland, Bjarmaland, which is now northern Russia, and sailing up the Dvina River into the Russian hinterland of Permia and sacking a town there. This man had a wonderful career as a Viking. This man was really at it. According to one account that is near contemporary, he was received by a nobleman when he visited the king in the town of York. And because of this, he was given the wife Cathro, right? And Cathro, we don't know a ton about her other than she's, like, kind of British, Scottish descent. But according to the Egil saga, or Egil's saga, his consort at York was Gunhild, the mother of kings. This account was using an earlier poem, but does not mention her by name, saying that the name was probably introduced by the author of the Egil saga. So we've got some fun little confusion between Cathro and Gunhild, but with saga tradition, he did cohabitate with Gunhild, right? Like, he did live with her in sort of a married way, which is why most people cite her as his wife. So you just gotta accept that there's Cathro and then there's Gunhild, and either he had two wives or he had one wife who went by different names, or this man was cheating on two women. Which I wouldn't if one of them was Gunhild, but that's just me. So we get in the sagas, his main role is as the King of Norway. According to the Heimskringla, Harald appointed his sons as client kings over different areas of his kingdom, and intended Eric, his favorite son, to inherit the throne at his death. But he fought with his half-brother and brutally killed Ragnvald and Bjorn, which were rulers of two of these client kingdoms, and his half-brothers. So when Harald died, he succeeded to the throne, slaughtered the forces of his brother Olaf and Sigurd, and gained full control of Norway at this point. However, his younger and more famous half-brother Hakon had been staying as like a foster son to a man of the West Saxon court, King Aethelstan at the time. And so Eric's rule was like really harsh, like terrible. This man was like a despot, a tyrant, and really fell out of favor with Norwegian nobility. Like, this man was not doing good for himself. And so when Hakon returned to Norway, the nobility accepted him as a king and essentially ousted Eric, which then led to him fleeing to Britain. Right? And interestingly enough, the Heimskringla specifies then that Hakon owed his success in large part to Sigurd, the Earl of Lade. I don't think it's the same Sigurd, but it is pretty... Once again, multiple names, the same names reappearing multiple times. So the dates to his reign are pretty hard to ascribe, especially for this. This is entirely based on the sagas, and no actual historical contemporary record survives of this rule in Norway. So we don't actually know if historically this occurred, right? But this is what the sagas say happened. So then you get into kind of, the fleeing to England and stuff like that. So he arrives in England and is kind of welcomed there, right? And he was baptized and given charge of Northumbria by Ethelstan, the same man who supposedly fostered his half-brother, who then returned to Norway to overthrow them, which feels like that wouldn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, if he was a tyrant and a despot, why would this man kind of welcome him, baptize him, and give him power, right? So he's given charge of Northumbria, but apparently his rule once again became absolutely fucking despotic and terrible, and he was driven out and killed on an expedition in Spain, according to discourse. According to the Historia Norwegia, it says that he went to Denmark at some point, which was his wife's native country, and therefore he expected to encounter some support there. But, we don't actually know. So, later sagas and records kind of expand upon his activities between his reigns in Norway and Northumbria. Apparently, initially, he had adopted a lifestyle of kind of raiding the coast, and he was in kind of involved with the Jarldom of Orkney. Apparently he may have had an alliance with some of the joint Jarls then, but then his Northumbria rule would be challenged later on. And apparently at one point he made a bunch of political marriages between his daughter and the future Earl of Orkney, right, to seal an alliance so that they could later target the Hebrides, Scotland, and England. And so he gave his daughter Ragnhild in marriage to the future Earl of Orkney, right? So then you get kind of to be honest, Northumbria was a pretty popular area of England. Like, people had long fought over it because kind of the Saxon kings and the Norse kings of Dublin were kind of all fighting over this. It was like right in the middle between two kind of larger kingdoms, and it was relatively contested. But yeah, so Ethelstan, right, who had originally given him control of England, he died at some point, and his son Edmund the First was to take over. Now, if you look over there, underneath the kings of Northumbria, Edmund the First was the first predecessor of him. What do you think happened to Edmund the First?
Probably killed.
Probably killed, yeah. He was 18 years of age and was unable to maintain control. People started rebelling against him. Apparently, one of his cousins may have conspired to kill him, right? And at some point after that, Eric would come to power after like a long struggle for power, right? So, Eric's first reign only lasted like 1 year. Maybe even less than 1 year. He was not a popular king. People did not like him.
No.
The Northumbrians literally violated their pledges and oaths, right? To be disloyal.
Great warrior, great general, horrible king.
Horrible king. Like, man, he is somehow managing to come to power again and again and just fuck it up every goddamn time. Yeah.
3 tries and didn't even get it right on the last one.
Yep. So he was removed. It cleared the way for another person, Amalaib, or Anlaf of Quirain, who was then defeated in Slain, returned to Northumbria, took kingship. Doesn't appear that the whole ton of stuff kind of happened in between here, but Eric had relationships with like a lot of famous like powerful people, right? Like Archbishop Wulfstan, who led the Northumbrian Church, and so on, which is really fascinating because what the actual fuck? You have friends everywhere. You are somehow managing to be militarily successful. Can you just chill the fuck out when you become king? Just rule well. Take your despotic shit and do it elsewhere. Don't do it here. Turn it towards your enemies, not your subjects.
It's like Gilgamesh if Gilgamesh never met Enkidu.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So it's at this point that the life of the Scottish Saint Cathro of Metz kind of comes into play in between these. So Saint Cathro was a Scottish saint with a Brythonic name, which visited a certain King Eric in York, right, according to records. This Eric was settled and married. It was probably on good terms with his neighbors, which does not seem like it would be Eric Bloodaxe. And this saint claims kinship with Eric's wife, but also with Dynfwai, the king of Strathclyde and Cumbria. Right, so this may have pointed to some sort of alliance, but this stay is dated to be between 940 and 943, when Constantine left Scotland to Malcolm I, and 946 when Edmund was slain. Which is why there's confusion among the Erics, because there's a King Eric existing at this time, but reputedly, he's a pretty good king. He has a lot of alliances. This should not be happening.
That does not match.
This doesn't work. He also spends some time as theoretically, according to a 12th century Irish saga, which is not super contemporary, but according to that, he spends some time as Eric of the Islands, which is Eric, ruler of the Hebrides, which is a series of islands. But once again, one source, non-contemporary, not a whole lot in it. He's literally just kind of referred to vaguely. So I feel like in a lot of ways when I was doing the research on this, it was really just a question of, do I really trust these historians who have decided that all these Erics are the same Erics? I'm not sure I agree that all these Erics are the same Erics. I'm really not sure. You know what I mean? Eric's a pretty common name. Maybe there was more than one Eric.
Also, just wondering, like, what time did this actually span, usually, like, these stories?
Do you mean, like, how long did a saga span, or how long was his lifespan?
Saga.
So, sagas could span anywhere from 2 years to 100 years. because they would just tell a story, and it didn't matter how long that story took.
Great. Perfect way to historically note shit. Yeah.
So Federico Filippini in chat said, this is a while ago, so even history is like Eric Bloodaxe who?
Also, he's also just said, Eric of the many Eric. Yeah, that feels like what we're talking about here. So on to his death. This is the next part in our tale. So it seems as if there is at some point an account of his death, right, with Northumbrian politics in the fore. The Historia Regum recalls that he was driven out and slain by Maccus, son of Onlaf, but a different one adds the following detail. King Eric was treacherously killed by Earl Maccus in a certain lonely space which is called Stainmore, with his son Haeric and his brother Regnold, betrayed by Earl Oswulf, and then afterward King Eadred ruled in these districts. So Stainmore is in Westmoreland, which is part of Cumbria. It's the pass through the northern Pennines. It marks a boundary between east and west. And it is theoretically maybe the same route that St. Cathro may have taken, but in the opposite direction. But it is said that he was betrayed here and slain here. His death gets a pretty grand treatment in the histories and sagas. It's according to the Heimskringla, Eric and 5 other kings died together in battle, right, in this place. By the way, Vorn, in terms of record, right, think about this. The Heimskringla detailed the life of his father and is now covering his own death.
Great.
That's not even all that the Heimskringla covers. So, but yeah, modern scholars are kind of one Eric among many Erics. Which Eric did what and where and when did they die? I am not going to go into each and every individual saga that mentions him in a slightly different way, because that would be folly. There is theoretically a monument where he died called the Ray Cross, or the Rare Cross, which is just a stump, a socket, and kind of a fragment of a shaft. And this may have been to mark his grave. He's got a pretty shit reputation. He had a lot of conflicts and that sort of thing. Here I set up a poll of insult against King Eric and Queen Gunhild. And I direct this insult against the guardian spirits of the lands, that every one of them shall go astray, neither to figure nor find their dwelling places, and until they have King Eric and Queen Gunhild taken from this country. Like, man was hated by a lot of people. Like, really, really hated.
Wait, if there's possibly multiple Erics, would there possibly be multiple Gunhilds as well?
Not necessarily. As far as historians are aware, it's the King Eric Bloodaxe, right, that ruled in Northumbria, likely had Gunhild as a consort. Now, Gunhild is not the most uncommon name, so you would find other ones of them through the stories, but she doesn't get confused as often as Eric does, because 1, women are written about less in history. 2, important women are not as common in history, so you don't see them as often, so it's harder to confuse them. And 3, Gunhild is actually one of the few things that several of these epics agree on, right? Like this woman who he was married with. So yeah, but the reason why she's called Mother of Kings is because a bunch of her children with Eric became co-rulers of Norway in the 10th century. Like, several of them did. That's why she's called Mother of Kings. Okay. I'm done.
Okay.
I've done my part to elongate this video.
So, what class do you think Bloodaxe here is going to be?
I think that this man is a berserker.
You would be 100% right.
Oh, damn.
Oh yeah, you haven't seen him yet.
No, I haven't. I have him in campaign though.
Probably.
Yes. Yeah, I haven't clicked into him. I kind of hate it. I don't know what about it is. I think he's just too bulbous.
I say it's the horns.
No, Vorn, the horns would be a turn on for me. It's definitely just something about this is not jiving.
That's a really old sprite, too.
Oh, yeah, that's a very old sprite.
He seriously looks like a Minotaur almost to me. It's like, what the hell?
So, Eric Bloodaxe, Berserker.
Yay, I was right.
Let me pull my notes back up.
Oh, you put your notes away?
Yes. I don't know why.
Shame.
So, Mr. Bloodaxe here, I told you before, is the butt of many jokes. Mm-hmm. I will include my own sort of sin here. When designing the D&D campaign, in prepping Okeanos, I completely forgot he was in Okeanos and didn't write him into the campaign and had to add him in post later.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Not that I minimized his role at all.
Yeah.
I kept his role 1 for 1. He was just not in there very much.
Taco says for shame.
Yeah, in fact, I'm calling it now that of our more recent videos, I anticipate this will be probably our worst performing one in a long time.
Oh man, you guys are gonna have to come back. You guys are gonna have to come back and make this perform well.
But
I kind of hate him though already. I don't know. I'm not. Nah, this ain't doing it for me.
So, as the servant himself is a berserker, on the scale of philosopher to raw, he falls somewhere more well-spoken than that. Mm-hmm. The problem is, though, he never speaks, and instead acts like he's raw.
Well, he's a berserker.
Well, he actually is able to speak, unlike a lot of berserkers.
Oh, he
of
just
that,
chooses
raw
not to?
variety. He chooses not to because he has his wife Gunhild in his head at all times.
Oh.
She is always watching his every action, and should he so much as speak to another woman, that woman risks being cursed by his wife.
Oh, Jesus.
Ooh, my.
So he just acts like the raw variety of berserker and lets his wife do the talking when they need to work something out.
Interesting. Please tell me that means that a woman's voice comes out of that face.
I don't think so.
Damn.
Oh.
Gunhild is very protective of Bloodaxe. In a normal Holy Grail war, she wouldn't even let him fight. She'd take over, kill their master, and be done with it.
Jesus, okay.
She is moderately okay with him being used as a servant in the world, like, ending scale scenario of FGO. So that is the one out Bloodaxe has, typically.
Okay.
So if you want, you can scroll down here. Yeah, those are all his roles in FGO.
Oh, none, because Gunhild is too scary.
At this point, just give us Gunhild.
Damn, okay. Damn, they really did this. Homie. Ooh, stop shaking the whole camera setup.
Sorry.
Here, let me move the desk back a little. There.
I would merge him. I would honestly have gone into this video merging him with something else, but there's nothing else I can merge him with because they haven't expanded on his lore or surrounding people at all.
Well, I see madness enhancement.
Yep.
There's some cursors. I want more info about Gunhild. I mean, famous Magus, and we don't have anything about her.
Not outside of Bloodaxe here.
Damn. Battle continuation. Okay, that makes sense.
So, in combat, he is obviously going berserker mode, hitting things till they die. But his wife is also, meanwhile, cursing their enemies, weakening them for Bloodaxe to brutally murder.
Okay.
Ooh.
I see he's got 2 noble phantasms.
Yeah, so
half-dead Bloodaxe.
So, the Bloodaxe itself is a living beast that needs food to survive, the food being the blood of his enemies.
Okay.
Not feeding it will result in the axe actually dying, but proper upkeep of your pet bloody axe can result in increased performance and killing ability. So
it's Samehara from Naruto.
I don't.
You don't understand that. Somebody will understand that reference. What is? Okay, people keep asking about La Sangla.
Lasangle?
Yeah.
That is the company that owns FGO. I commonly call them lasagna.
Oh, because I'd never heard that before because you only ever use lasagna. Okay. God damn, McNack, you got me hella confused. All right.
His other NP is called Bloodbath Crown.
Yeah.
This is the result of his wife's curses. Basically, his wife can push him into a state of a rampage that lets him fight past his limit, regardless of the damage he takes during the duration of that. He does still take that damage at the end, but like you kill him, he's going to fight until that rampage is over.
Interesting.
If they kill you, just get back up and hit him.
Okay, so...
Yep.
Oh, this is sad. It's 6 seconds long! Oh, that's it?
That's...
What? What?
That was Blood Axe.
What?
Also, is that a double-bladed axe?
Yep.
I don't think that's correct historically.
Varn, leave the historical accuracy to me. Those were actually quite common and existed. They're called battle axes.
Okay.
And great axes. Not all axes are one-sided for chopping wood.
No, I meant like for Viking stuff, didn't they? Did they have those?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Vorn over here contributing with his historical knowledge, knowing that this, if I named half the historical things I know, he wouldn't have a clue. Bitch, look it up before you ask it on stream. That really is it. Damn.
That is it.
Okay. I'm like frame by framing to see if like...
No, this is an old animation. Has not been updated.
Damn.
You saw the sprite. That is an old sprite.
That's
Has
it.
not been updated. This servant is like a launch servant that has just received no updates at all.
Why?
Like, if you even scroll down there, I have a feeling his skills haven't even... Yep. His skills and NP haven't even been updated.
What the fuck? This is like the shortest fucking... What? He's not completely forgotten.
Nope.
He did get a baseball. Look, his axe is turned into his bat. I wonder if it craves blood as well. Aww. Well, he does have old and new.
That's because all of the servants that were 1, 2, and
Aw.
1 and 2 and even 3-star got updates of their artwork because they added backgrounds. And if you even look, that's not a crazy new background. It's only slightly added some foliage.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're right. Aww.
How long ago was the background ad?
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Aww.
Oh, so this is just forgotten.
Oh, shit. He barely even has any faces.
Yep.
God
He
damn.
appears for all of like 5 minutes in Okeanos, dies, and then doesn't do anything for the rest of FGO.
God damn.
Oh my.
Okay. Blood-sucking axe. Alright. Even after taking the throne and all the familicide, it wasn't enough blood for the cursed axe. Made from a demonic beast and forged by a witch, various demonic elements devour the king. What about it? The king is aware of the curse, yet if the axe will help him demonstrate his authority as a king, then he has no regrets. Let the feast of blood begin. Okay, that was very short. A letter of appreciation from her. Okay. Valentine's return gift. Thank you for always using my Hex husband. You even had the nerve to give him some chocolates. Next time I would like to, Hex, send a gift in return to Hex. You as a sign of gratitude, is what it says. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Wait, how did we not get killed in Okeanos by those hexes?
Probably because we didn't really interact with Blood Axe.
Didn't we kill him?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I one-shotted him.
Oh, okay.
Like, immediately. Oh, it's a live, like...
Live commentary.
Oh, God. Burning live seat. All right. The enthusiasm felt from a fight in the ring stems partly from the passionate shouts and screams and partially from the famed reporter's in-depth analysis. These two are also warriors of the ringside who work to stoke the audience's excitement to whole new levels. Homie, he doesn't even have an anniversary!
Oof.
Nope. This is the single least used servant in FGO, I would say.
Aww. That's sad. I feel sad.
You almost feel bad for him.
I feel really bad for him.
You need to start using him more in the campaign.
No, I don't.
So,
I by the way, Nick Nack, I'd like to make a note to yourself. Move him into my least favorite servants folder.
So, y'all, just while I have you on the line, I just want to ask you, every day a Blood Axe goes unleveled and unloved in FGO, so if you could slide a little EXP to your local Blood Axe, we would appreciate... We of the Blood Axe... We of the Blood Axe Awareness Society would appreciate your generous donation.
Jesus fucking Christ. It's so sad. What the fuck? This poor dude. You're like mistreated. God damn.
Absolutely. Like I said, everyone's forgot him, including the devs.
Aww. They're so sad.
So, I guess...
I feel so bad.
Sekhie, do you want to give us our hint for the next servant in FGO?
Yeah, White in Gaeardigum.
And we will see you next time, guys.
I like how you didn't do that last time, but you did do that this time.
Look, we're streaming. I'm catching things. I'm forgetting things. I'm going to move us back to the talk zone. Rejoice, Rejoice, everyone. We're back with another Sekhie Reacts to Fate. This time, Beowulf.
So, the Spear Danes in days gone by and the kings who ruled them had courage and greatness. We've heard of those princes' heroic campaigns. Some of you picked up, and one of you even messaged it back to see if they had the correct copy down of it. But I did, in fact, give the hint "White in Gaeardigum," which is the opening kind of 2 words of Beowulf in the original Old English. Of which what I was just grabbing off the shelf is I have Beowulf, the Seamus Heaney with Old English and New English. And I also have J.R.R. Tolkien's more poetical translation of Beowulf, which is much... So we kind of discussed this as something similar when I pulled up the Gilgamesh, but Tolkien's Beowulf is a very good reader, right? Like, it's very easy to read. You're going to get everything you need. It's translated into English that it's pretty easy to understand, whereas Seamus Heaney is going to have a lot more technicalities to it, you know? And I love Beowulf, so a little bit of thing here is, my parents are both teachers, and my mom teaches English, and so I grew up with Beowulf. Like, I watched the Beowulf movie when I was, like, a small, wee child, because my mom liked showing Beowulf to her students. And so I've seen Beowulf, the movie, an ungodly amount of times, and I have read it so many times, and it's one of the examples that my linguistics professor used when talking about language change, because this is written in English, just not modern English, as Knick-Knack can attest.
Yep.
There are letters here that Knick-Knack does not know.
Yep.
There are letters here that no longer exist in English. To be fair, I did toy with the idea of, like, memorizing the entire first stanza in Old English.
I mean, they're really, when talking Old English in, like, English classrooms, there's 2 things the teachers tend to show you. Beowulf and, like, the opening of Le Morte d'Arthur.
Exactly. So it's, you know, pretty interesting there, but it's not exactly, I didn't feel like I needed to. There's a lot of really good versions on YouTube of people reciting all of Beowulf in Old English. There's even one of some dude doing it to, like, actual music, like it would have been, as like a kind of epic poem would have been recited to, like, English. So you should definitely look those up, because they're really fucking cool. But Beowulf is not a historical person. Beowulf is a character. He's the main character in an Old English poem. It's a Germanic hero legend consisting of over 3,000 lines.
Isn't this one of those things, though, where, like, it's kind of like Gilgamesh, where there's probably a lot of stories that have been lost to time?
Not necessarily. It was definitely, it was written down pretty early, and we have we have a full copy of it in the manuscript, the Noel Codex. It didn't have a title back then. It was damaged by fire at a certain point, and some bits of it were lost, but we do have a relatively complete manuscript of it. And the parts that we don't have, like, this is not written just once, right? Like, we have one manuscript, and then we have bits and pieces from other manuscripts. So it's kind of like Gilgamesh, where you can piece together anything you've lost. But also, it's not like Gilgamesh in that there's, you know, a different tablet for every place that it was written. No, this is a much more consolidated version of history. Like, the manuscript itself was produced between around 975 and 1025, right? So this is automatically much more recent. It's set in the 6th century in Scandinavia during the kind of time of the pagans, and it is about a hero who comes to the aid of the king Hrothgar, who's under attack by the monster Grendel. right? And that's the fucking scene of Grendel and Hrothgar and like the death of Grendel. I have seen that so many fucking times because my mom shows it to all of her classes, and she always asks me to see if I can find a better version of it, or is there another version of it, and I'm just like, there is not another version. Stop making me look. And then near the end of the tale, so he defeats Grendel, and then near the end of the tale, he will fight a dragon, and he defeats it, but is mortally wounded, right? And that, essentially, that's the gist of the text, but obviously there's a lot more to it, right? It is a 1,300-line epic poem. So it's written entirely in alliterative verse, and there are a lot more characters than we've mentioned so far. There's also this has been related to similarities with other accounts, like the Grettis Saga, the folktale The Bear's Son, and honestly, a lot of people have tried to link Beowulf to Homer's Odyssey and Virgil's Aeneid, because they're trying to make like biblical parallels a lot of the time, like Genesis, Exodus, Daniel, and then this, which at the time, I mean, 1000, the church is around, the church is there, they're definitely present in this part of the world. And one of the things about like Norse tradition especially is that a lot of Norse manuscripts were written down by people from the church. They were written down by monks, and monks would often kind of take these old stories and what they heard, and they would kind of write it down with either kind of a grain of salt as they were writing, just kind of like disparaging it as they went, like, oh, this is just a made-up story these people tell their children. Or they would kind of try to make it symbolically similar to some sort of biblical tale so that it could kind of be kept and accepted in the religious community, because, you know, paganism is witchcraft and we can't have that, so make it Christian, which is something I hate in history, but unfortunately happens very often in this area of the world because there is not a super strong literary tradition. There was a very strong oral tradition in the Norse world, but oral traditions are kind of, they change over the years as different people tell them. They have to be learned by memorization. Each person will have their own slight spin on it. They'll tell different parts of the story with like emphasis as opposed to other ones. So it's not exactly an exact science. You're not getting the one definitive edition of Beowulf. No, you're really not. You're getting what this person wanted to emphasize, what he thought his audience would like what this Christian monk thought the story should be written as. So take with a grain of salt any sort of biblical comparisons, and really any comparisons to any other pieces of art. It could just be that the person telling it knew about that other piece of work and then syncretized them slightly so that he would have an easier time remembering it. So the original codex that it was in was damaged by a fire, but it was largely preserved. It was first transcribed in 1786, first translated into modern English about 25 years later, and about 9 or 10 complete translations were made in the 19th century. After 1900, there were literally hundreds of translations, but some of the best-known modern ones are done by Edwin Morgan, Burton Raffel, Michael J. Alexander, Roy Liuzza, and Seamus Heaney. Tolkien actually has an essay called On Translating Beowulf, and it is actually included in here, and he actually talks about the sheer difficulty of translating Beowulf and trying to keep verse and prose, because this is another case of it doesn't translate one-to-one, and that becomes a problem. Yeah, OSP did a video on this a while back. I love OSP's videos. Let's be honest. I do love them. Let's see. Okay, so the events in the poems obviously take place in the 6th to 7th century in kind of this area of the world that basically encompassed much of very North Europe, and then some of Denmark and kind of Finland and Sweden, and then sometimes a little bit into England. So that's where this is taking place. There are some historic elements in this poem kind of blended together with fictional and mythic ones. Beowulf himself is not ever mentioned in any other Anglo-Saxon manuscript, but a lot of the people mentioned in it besides him do appear in other Scandinavian sources. Hrothgar, Halga, Herdulf, and many others, as well as some of the names of the clans they use, like the Sildings, Selfings, and Wolfings, as well as some of the events. Like there's definitely an attempt was made to connect this to the historical goings on of the period and area. Like it's definitely meant to be set in here. Also, yes, Hohenzollern, it is the land of the Geats. Shout out stream. Yeah. Generally, the majority hold that figures like King Hrothgar and the Sildings, which is a clan, are based on historical peoples from Scandinavia during this time. And therefore, the poem itself has been used as a source of information about such figures. But the poem itself is pretty ambivalent. It's not necessarily myth, but it's also not necessarily a folktale. It's a story set against a legendary history background on a roughly maybe recognizable map of this part of the world. So take with a grain of salt. There is some archaeological evidence that was discovered in the 19th century that was thought to confirm elements of the Beowulf story. For example, Eadgils was buried at Uppsala, according to Snorri Sturluson, and when this mound was excavated, the finds showed that a powerful man was buried here on bearskin with 2 dogs and rich grave offerings, which could kind of lead some kind of interpretation towards this was powerful man, and it could have been this man. But the essential summary of the book comes in a couple of sections. So you get the Sild prelude between Hrothgar and Grendel, right? Then you have the part where you're kind of received. So Beowulf is then received by the Danes and kills Grendel, right? So then they talk about the glory of the Danes. And then Beowulf fights Grendel's mother, who comes to avenge her fallen child. Then you get a lot about the Danish court and the Geatish court, which send Beowulf to fight the dragon. Yeah, Frozen Lion. Grendel's mommy. So Beowulf fights the dragon. He kills the dragon, but then dies. At which point, the Geats mourn him. A huge burial mound is built to him, which I believe encompasses all of the dragon's treasure, right? Because that's part of this, is that he is buried with all the treasure of the dragon. Which is pretty fucking cool, and led to a lot of people trying to find the tomb of Beowulf. Rather unsuccessfully.
I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah. The poem actually begins kind of in the middle of the story, which is pretty typical of things from antiquity. And just includes a lot of stuff about the brotherhood of warriors and loyalty between people. Oh, God. I've been talking all day. Beowulf also, a fun fact about Beowulf, there's when he is initially fighting Grendel, he refuses to use weapons because he holds himself to be Grendel's equal. So they fight by hand. But also it turns out that blades cannot pierce Grendel's skin. So Beowulf tears his arm from his body at the shoulder, and Grendel runs home and dies in his marsh. And then he displays Grendel's shoulder and arm for all to see. And this display is what makes Grendel's mother so fucking mad at him. Because, like, you ripped my son's arm off and then displayed it like a trophy.
I'd be pretty mad, too.
Well, to be fair, Grendel had been terrorizing the kingdom for a while.
I mean, wouldn't you?
That's fair. Beowulf actually gains his son Hrunting between the events of him and battling Grendel's mother. He actually leaps into a lake and is harassed by water monsters. Grendel's mother then pulls him into her cave at the bottom of the lake, and they engage in combat. She actually tries to kill him sitting atop of him, but he's saved by the fact that he's wearing armor. And then I think later, as he travels into Grendel's mother's lair, he actually finds Grendel's corpse and cuts off his head and then swims back up carrying Grendel's head to kind of present it to Hrothgar. At which point he gets the sword Nagling presented to him, his family's heirloom, right? Which he returns home and he actually becomes a king amongst his own people. But about 50 years later, a slave steals a golden cup from the lair of a dragon at Earnanes. And when the dragon sees it, he's enraged, burns everything in sight. So Beowulf and his warriors go to fight the dragon, but he tells his men that he will fight them alone and they should wait on the barrow. One of his men, Wiglaf, comes to his aid, right? The two slay the dragon, but he is mortally wounded. When Beowulf dies, Wiglaf remains by his side, grief-stricken. And then he actually admonishes the other men for running away in cowardice at the final fight. He's then ritually burned on a pyre in Gateland while his people mourn for him. And then a barrow is built visible to the sea in his memory. A lot of people have tried to say that, like, large barrows built near the sea in this area of the world are Beowulf's barrow. But, you know, kind of one by one as they get excavated, it doesn't usually turn out to be anything particularly
special.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, there's a lot of bits of the story that aren't included in the basic summary. Like, there's a story where he swims home across the sea from Frisia carrying 30 sets of armor, right? Which is supposed to symbolize his heroic strength, right? And so on and so forth. So there's a lot of other things that happen during this epic. It's obviously very long, but the general gist is that stuff. Yeah. I don't think you need a full diagnostic on, like, the authorship of Beowulf.
I don't need it, but hey, I don't have that much. So.
That's entirely fair. Let me take a look at chat and see what people are...
Well, someone was saying the One Piece is real.
I mean, it is. It is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyways, so you have some stuff for me, but not a lot, as I can see.
Yes.
Is this going to be another Blood Axe?
There's a lot. They've given more love to this servant than Blood Axe, but this servant just doesn't have any extra forms.
Oh, thank God. At least he's got more love than Blood Axe.
Like, this servant's reappeared multiple times now.
Yeah, at least it's more love than Blood Axe.
So, what class do you think?
Saber.
We got another Berserker.
Oh, you know what? That makes sense, actually. You shouldn't have been surprised. Damn, he looks good. Damn.
Ooh,
oh, yeah. Berserker
that definitely
man.
fits him.
Oh, yeah. They're the bare fists to fight Grendel. Damn. Boy darkened 4 ethnicities over the course of his sprites. I like how it's like, small dagger, large club.
All right.
He looks like a berserker in his April Fools.
So, Beowulf here is, as you would probably guessed, a pretty savage warrior.
Yo, yeah, of course.
As a berserker, he doesn't think much in regards to rulership, so this is not the king Beowulf. This is the, I'm gonna go kill a dragon Beowulf.
Okay.
I'm gonna go beat Grendel's mother to death with my bare hands Beowulf.
Okay.
There is undoubtedly a version of him that does that, but this one speaks solely with his fists. Mm-hmm. He views his master as either an equal or close enough for the master to need to seriously work with him. Like, you're not ordering him around. He is your...
comrade?
Yeah.
I'm down for that.
Beowulf will not treat his master's orders as law and prefers to take high-risk, high-reward options over safe but less productive options.
I mean, valid.
That's definitely Sekhie's.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
Mine.
you're not wrong.
Ain't mine.
I'm actually going to scroll down this way just because I'm a little bit curious. Yeah, see, you got the... Yep. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, this is pretty accurate description of the entire epic poem of Beowulf, pretty much. Yeah. Let's see. All right. He doesn't have that many relationships. No. I mean, not only does he use other people's noble phantasms as he pleases, his method of using them is also clever. I'm quite pleased, even though I'm unable to stomach such a thing. The next time I see him, I'll fight him. Wow, Well, heroes are all mostly sharp people yet messed up in the head. My work is to pulverize the worst of these lots. Kingship was not a suitable job for me. I will not hold on to it again. As you live a life as a hero, you will definitely encounter these people. Despite having the ability to handle the problems themselves, they choose not to, as they find it a bother to think and beg for help instead. My reply to this is, shut up and do your duty. To be honest, I feel like I would like this character. Is this part 1, part 2, part 3?
Part 1.
Part 1. Is this E pluribus unum? Your hesitation. Oh, I didn't even look because I skipped that shit.
As you see here, he has a lot more appearances than Blood Axe.
Okay. Because I skipped this shit normally.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we skim through, but...
Yeah.
So, despite being a berserker, Beowulf is extremely sane of mind. He's more brutal than he would be in any other class, but not any less intelligent or soft-spoken. The result is that it has minimal to no, like his mat enhancement, minimal to no effects to his stats. Okay. He just as a servant, he's capable of fighting through mortal wounds, which includes that of old age.
Okay, I see Berserk. Well, I mean, he was already like. He already had to be like at least 15 when he was fighting Grendel, and then he specifically doesn't fight the dragon until 50 years later. So I mean, he was already nearing his 70s, if not in his 70s, when he fought a dragon and killed it. If that ain't the biggest fuck you to age,
I don't know what is.
Yeah. Okay, so I see Madness Enhancement E rank. I get that. Berserk. Okay. It turns into a beast that fights with his hands. Instinct. Rousing brave. Battle continuation. Perseverance in old age. Okay. So he's got two noble phantasms. Three,
actually.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so Grendel Buster.
Yes, so...
Yep.
I'll go... This isn't the order they have it here, but I'll go in this order here. So the first is Fronting. Yeah. This is a sword that sniffs out blood. Will always take the most optimal slash in combat. And as it draws more blood, it can change and become a deep red. Yep. This is the sword that he killed Grendel's mother with. This is
the sword that he killed Grendel's mother with. Nagling is the sword that he was given after that, as to be like an heirloom of his house.
So this sword is a magic sword that functions more like a club. It isn't able to cut very well and it's a lot less practical. Overuse can even break it, but when you do finally break it, it is able to release a lot of energy that will cause a massive amount of damage. It explodes. This is likely meant to be Beowulf's broken sword that slew a dragon.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And then his final NP here is...
Grendel Buster.
Yeah.
I see it. The ban on it can only be lifted with the destruction of Hrunting and Nagling.
Yeah, when they're both destroyed and he's left with no other options, he just starts punching. This massively increases his power and his abilities to what they would have been in life. So he's actually powered down by being a servant.
Oh, jeez. Well, I mean, he did kind of... No, that's valid.
Yeah, he is, as a berserker servant of all things, not as strong as the peak of his life.
Yeah, goddamn. What the fuck?
I don't know the context of that, but...
That's actually that's a fun reversal, because like if you were going by time in the story, you'd start with Grendel Buster and then move towards Hrunting and then Nagling, but this is kind of going back the other way.
Yeah,
it's almost insinuating that as he got older, he got a little weaker.
Just a little bit. He's still as strong as anybody else.
Yeah,
as any other servants when he's older.
Yeah. Jesus.
But since his limbs are a weapon that predates weapons in general, they are completely unpredictable and unknowable to opponents that otherwise learn weapons like Emiya or Kojiro.
Yeah, somebody commented on there, they were like, Emiya's favorite weapon. Yeah. A question. So you mentioned that we were going to be coming back to Fafnir in Fate, and Fafnir's a dragon, pretty commonly used in Fate.
Yes.
Do they use Fafnir here for Beowulf, or is it a different dragon?
They've not implied that, not with Fafnir. We will come back to Fafnir at some point, but it's not impossible that Fafnir is also the dragon there. That's just the kind of shit you would see in an interlude or something.
Okay, so...
Yeah, you got an NP here.
Is this with Nagling or Hrunting?
I don't remember which one
this is. Or is it Grendel Buster?
I don't remember. I think it's Grendel Buster.
Fun! Okay. I like just the boom, boom,
bam, bam,
just slam. I love it.
Like he just stabs them.
Yeah. I mean, valid. Interesting.
So this is going to be a little bit of a long video because this isn't one of the official character trailers.
Yeah.
So if you want to skip to the NP.
This is still animation NP. Okay. Oh,
Grendel
yeah.
Buster.
Okay, yeah, we're just going... Jesus.
Hold on. Is that a motherfucking JoJo reference?
Goddamn. Goddamn, my boy. Goddamn.
And that is Beowulf.
Goddamn, my man.
So you got your CEs here?
You just fucking punch. Now who would win? Goku or him? I'm kidding. It's Gilgamesh or him. I love this. Look at this shit. He looks like he's
got nunchuck bats.
The two bats chained together. Love that. Love that for him. Let's see.
I assume you're claiming him.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm claiming him, Vorn. He's mine.
Got it.
Okay, so just the different versions of. Alright. Oh, okay. A little bit more then.
Yeah.
I love the name of the second one. I'm so excited. Okay, final battle. The dragon's horde. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, let's see. All my men either shattered or ran away, leaving myself thin and fatigued, and the quivering young knight who held his ground. Will this large shield offer protection from the dragon's breath? Even if it does, how can the dragon be slain? Where exactly is its weakness? How much difficulty must be endured in order to strike that? Time has slowed down. Therefore, there is time to think. Why am I fighting? Did I want to fight? The passion of my youth has long since left me, and all that is left is a wish for peace, or so I thought. Oh, I see. The fighting spirit that I thought had vanished begins to burn once more. I shall...
So,
I shall burn once more.
No need for maidens. Just dropped us a piece of trivia that his voice actor also voices Zora.
I know. Yes. I shall die here. This is a fitting hell to end my life. After getting old, the passion that I had when I defeated Grendel is gone. However, there is peace behind me. A countless number of people enjoyed modest happiness, and are even now doing their best to live a life without despair. Once in a while, I should act like a king. Not for myself, not for glory or wealth. As a king, it is my duty. Be revived, Beowulf. Your strength is far from what it was in the Golden Age, but it is definitely not zero.
Weaker as he got to the dragon.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I love the name of this. Sweden Fire Drake Char Grilled Sirloin.
Ain't no
Honestly, this looks like my ideal dinner. Valentine's return. This reminds me, there was a thing a while back, and it was like, why buy a girl flowers on Valentine's Day when you could buy her 2 loaves of garlic bread? Don't buy me chocolates. Buy me a steak. I'm gonna be a dragon steak! And now you are. For seasonings, soy sauce and wasabi for a Japanese-style taste, and onion sauce to give it a Western flavor. It's not fatty at all, and you can enjoy its true meaty taste. It doesn't actually taste like beef, though. In fact, it tastes more like chicken. According to the restaurant reviews, the store is famous for its scary owner. It looks so good. It looks
Makes
so
you
good.
want steak.
It really does. Muscle caviar. Oh, hey, I know some people here now. This is Rama.
Yeah.
This is Fergus.
Yeah.
This is Leonidas. This is Beowulf.
Now you're just missing the woman in the corner.
Just missing her. Bulging muscles and surging blood compel the body to move. They cooperate to move forward and challenge one's limitations. Victory doesn't always mean beating the enemy. It can also be a display of someone reaching their absolute pinnacle. I love it.
This one might contain spoilers.
Detective Edmund, Foreign Nation Infiltration Arc. No names. My path leads to the farthest corners of this strange land. What awaits at the end of their journey? This time, the detective's adventures take him across the sea. Accompanied by his skilled bodyguards, the detective and his entourage infiltrate a foreign land.
See Beowulf in the back there?
Yeah. Yeah, looking a little older. Yeah. Nice. Right. Climbing battle. We went over this, didn't we?
Yep,
that's
Achilles and Beowulf.
I was wondering, because I didn't know who this was. I remember. If there's some sort of competition, they'll be unable to contain themselves, whether it's out in the great outdoors or if it's going up against powerful waterfall rapids. It's in the warrior's nature to take on any challenge. Go down a little on the... Oh, I don't know what page we were on, Manuel Gardet. I'm sorry. Who will win in a fight, Beowulf or Gil? Answer, Sekhie. Alright. Bear Kings. Okay, I know everyone here, even though I'm not supposed to, because my original FGO account spoiled me for who this is.
Yeah, so you know all three of them.
So I know all three people here. But what a set. Show us your might using only your body. Show us your strength using only your body. A king is always present at the place you are heading to until the day the next king is crowned. Yeah. Let me see if... there's nothing in the trivia. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what page we were on, Manuel Gardet, so I can't... Oh, yeah, no. I don't really want to know who the girl is if it's a servant. Because we'll get to her eventually. But yeah. At least he's not as forgotten as Eric Bloodaxe.
Yeah, there's only one of him, but also they do some fun stuff with him.
Yeah, and I feel like he's a more kind of important character. He factors in a little bit more. We're just finishing it up, Jens Kosh.
Did he just arrive?
I think so.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. We just finished going over all his CEs. My favorite is definitely Sweden Fire Drake char grilled sirloin. Stunning. Love that. Perfection.
You don't know how much we were chuckling to ourselves during the lunch break at the person who was like, "Are you doing Beowulf at some point in the future?"
Yeah. Taco says, "I'm surprised you didn't show Lug Beowulf as a joke."
You know what? I thought about showing Lou Beowulf as a joke. There's another character in Fate named Beowulf. Completely not related at all.
Oh, is it another servant?
No, so it's from Mahotsukai no Yoru. It's a little boy who becomes a big werewolf with golden fur.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
I almost threw him up as a joke, but I decided against it at the last minute.
That'd be pretty funny, though. Yeah. I like Beowulf. This was fun. I feel like, looking at, we started with Hokusai, right? And Hokusai was stunning, right?
Yeah.
Hokusai had so much. I feel like sometimes I understand that Fate is a work that's coming out of Japan. And, I really appreciate them for including people like Beowulf and kind of from all over the world. But sometimes, I don't know, that little thing in me is just like, I want more,
I think what hurts is that a lot of, it's only going to be the female servants that are going to get most of the swimsuits.
Apparently there's extra artwork on the Muscle Cavalier page of the servants.
Well, let's take a look.
Oh, there is. I can look at this one.
I think the next one's just MASH.
Oh, is it? Was MASH even in the CE? I think it's the purple-haired girl from...
Let me take a look. You can close your eyes if you want. Just click the arrow. Yeah, it's just MASH.
Oh, that's so cute. Go back. Goddamn. Man, that shirt is really...
Really gripping there. Holding on for dear life.
I think Leonidas is one flex away from being shirtless. One flex. Also, I like that Fergus is just up here, barely in. Jesus fucking Christ. Y'all really committing to the bit about Bloodaxe. Interesting. Yeah, okay. Love that.
I mean, it is clear that there are servants in areas of the world that get more love than others.
Yeah.
I think Norse in particular got burned. Beowulf here, he could get more, but I think he has a lot too.
Yeah, pray for the shirt, Hohenzollern. Pray for that shirt. Please, burst.
But this also could just be a male thing, because it's the... Because you remember, Leonidas didn't have much either.
Male servants, yeah.
Yeah.
Fate authors, there are horny female fans too. Acknowledge us.
And like we'll get there when we do Sekhie Kojiro, but Sekhie Kojiro, despite being a Fate Stay Night servant, has 0 alts in Fate.
I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, so it's not. I don't know if it's like. Well, it is obvious they're going to put a lot more love into their the culture that they know. Mm-hmm. I think it's just a male female thing.
Look, I'm equal opportunity, but you know, I do love my men. Like there are female horny fans. Fate, like, yeah. Come on. I don't know. I hope it does burst like Gil's clothes in Extra.
AOU cast off.
Yes.
So yeah, but do you have anything else there? Are we good to maybe move towards the move our hint to the next video, or the one people will see months from now for the stream?
Yeah, we are gonna have to give a hint for something coming up in a while, and I'm just gonna suffer for a second. You interact with chat while I figure this the fuck out. I need a knife.
Saber Kojiro is too OP to give players. My brother really wants Saber Kojiro.
Fuck! That just needs to sit there for a little.
Oh Jesus, she brought out the protractor.
Oh my.
No, my books were so tightly in there for the hint I needed that I had to actually pull out a different book first. And I needed a knife for it. It's just a little knife. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh my.
It's fine. Let's see. I'm not going to read the exact opening lines because that would be too spoilery. But, so when the Duke and his wife were come unto the king by the means of great lords, they were accorded both. The king liked and loved his lady well, and he made them great cheer out of measure, and desired to have lain by her. But she was a passing good woman, and would not assent unto the king. And then she told the Duke her husband, and said, I suppose that we were sent for that I should be dishonoured. Wherefore, husband, I counsel you that we depart from hence suddenly, and we may ride all night unto our own castle. And in likewise, as she said, so they departed, that neither the king nor none of his council were aware of their departing. This is the opening lines of our next servant video.
Ooh.
If your guess is in chat, we won't tell you the answer.
We will not tell you the answer. That is entirely true. And I will just move my little display back. And move my dragon back. I really need to get a new place for knickknacks.
But I'm crack.
Let's see.
I'll go ahead and move us back to the just chatting window.
Yeah.